guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to be doing my March week 3 reading vlog. So last week I had a really productive week and I read some really great books. Part of the reason I had a productive week is because I was like more than half finished with 2 books before I started the week. So like I got a little boost from the week before. I ended up finishing 6 books last week. So if you missed that reading vlog, I will link it up in the cards for you guys. But as always, I'm gonna start out with this week with the books that I'm currently reading. So the first book that I'm currently reading is Words of Radiance by Sanderson. I've made a lot of progress on this book last week. I know, I've been reading this book forever, but I legitimately made a lot of progress on this book last week. I am right about there now. And if I continue reading this book at the speed that I've been reading it, I'll probably finish it this week, which makes me excited because I'm excited for this book. I am super into this book right now. Like, I love the characters and the decisions that they make. It's just, it's so great. I can totally see why this is a lot of people's favorite book in the series so far, because I'm really, really enjoying it and I'm excited to see where this one's going. This chapter that I'm currently reading, I left off like right before all of the action actually happens, and the action in this chapter is really good so far. So I'm really excited to continue on with this one, and I'll probably do that right after filming this clip. Also, I decided to pick up Heroes Die by Mafi Woodring Stover. So this is part of my fantasy book series challenge because this is the first book in the Acts of Cain series. I remember when I put on the list, I wasn't sure whether this was fantasy or science fiction, but I leaned towards fantasy because it says specifically fantasy on here. I'm thinking I was wrong about that because this feels very much science fiction. Now, mind you, it has a lot of fantasy elements to it, but it's very science fiction-y. So there's this character named Harry Michelson who lives on Earth, but like there's this sort of simulation thing where he's also this, I think, assassin or something named Cain who kills people for entertainment, but apparently it's actually happening on another planet, and it's interesting. It's really interesting. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna feel about this, but I'm excited to see where this one's going. By the way, definitely grimdark. Like, that caught me off guard right away. It's definitely grimdark, and the action in this one is fantastic. Mind you, I haven't even finished the first chapter in this. I read the first 2 scenes from the first chapter because it has scenes within each chapter, if that makes sense. But I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this a lot for only having read the first 2 scenes of this book. I'm right there right now. So yeah, this is good. I like the writing in this one. It's super action-packed and it has a very complex setup that I'm excited to see where it's going. And lastly, I'm also doing a reread of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. So I'm reading the illustrated edition while annotating the paperback copy that I have. Obviously, I have a lot of tabs. The Harry Potter series is one of my favorite of all time. I'm tabbing it not just for lines that I like, but things that build character or move the plot forward in interesting ways and things like that that really make me pay attention to the story. I have, in the beginning, index basically of what each color means. The yellow is theme, which is usually what people tab, and there's not that much yellow tabs, but there's a lot of the other one. I'll probably do at least a video on this when I finish it, but I think there's a good chance I'm gonna finish it this week because I'm almost done, and right now, I'm kind of just craving to read this one. I've also been in my vlog showing you guys the illustrations that I like the most. So I have a couple that I read this morning that I want to show you guys. Again, I have to talk about the ghosts. The ghost illustrations are the best. By the way, this is Peeves the Poltergeist, and that's not how I pictured him at all, but I'm loving it. Really love this illustration of the Quidditch Stadium. It's just so beautiful with the sunset and everything. I just think the illustrations of this book are so beautifully done. And the troll, Harry on top of the troll, is the best, and I'm just loving this. I think those are the only new ones that I haven't done, so you can check out my previous vlogs to see some of the previous illustrations that I really liked, because I'm really, really enjoying this reread. I'm definitely excited to start Chamber of Secrets because I feel like there are some really interesting scenes in Chamber of Secrets, specifically with Aragog and the basilisks and things like that I think could be really beautifully illustrated as well. So I'm really excited for that. Even though Chamber of Secrets is my least favorite book in the Harry Potter series, and after that Sorcerer's Stone is my second to least favorite, I'm still really enjoying this reread. I don't know why, but it's just, I don't know. It's the nostalgia maybe, but I think they are actually really well written books. I'm really enjoying this reread and really excited to continue on with it. So I decided to pick up Furthermore by Tahareh Mafi. So this is one of my unwrapped books for the month. The other unwrapped book was The Truth of Right Now, which I DNF'd. This one I actually finished today. Like, I just read it in one sitting, which is crazy. I switched between the audiobook and the physical book, so it's not really one sitting because I did a lot of stuff while I was listening to the audiobook, but I did go back and forth between the two. I really enjoyed this. Like, it was giving me very Alice in Wonderland sort of vibes. And that's not just because the main character's name is Alice. For me, it felt like a cross between sort of Alice in Wonderland and The Cruel Prince. Like, it had those two sort of vibes, which I really enjoyed. It has such a beautiful world with very interesting writing. Like, I loved the narrator here. He was not necessarily funny, but he did things in almost a comical way. And I really enjoyed, like, just the different things that happened in this story because I just got drawn into the story and could not stop reading it. So I really enjoyed this, and I ended up giving it 4.25 stars. I also went ahead and bought the sequel to this, Witchwood, which I'm really excited to get to. It's available on Book Outlet, so I ended up doing a whole Book Outlet order. So by the time this vlog comes out, I'll have done a book haul, but I'll have another one to do again this month. So I blame it all on Furthermore because I really wanted to get the second book in this series. And I'm so happy I read this. Like, this is so much better than I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was really good. So I needed to pick up a new audiobook, so I decided to pick up Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. This book is interesting. It is a nonfiction collection of essays, and in the very beginning the author recognizes that she's not perfect, and that's why she calls herself a bad feminist, because she's not a perfect feminist, but she's still a feminist, which I definitely thought was an interesting idea, and I really liked that first essay. Some of the subsequent essays, though, really have me scratching my head at times, because a lot of it seems to just be like sort of criticism of TV shows or books or things like that, which is interesting, don't get me wrong. I don't really see how these essays tie together that much. I almost feel like this book required like prerequisite reading before reading this book to really understand what she was talking about, because like some of the books like I hadn't even heard of. Like, I understand their pop culture. I don't read or watch every pop culture thing that happens. There were times when I was like a little bit lost with like when she talks specifically about characters in specific books and things like that. So that kind of got me kind of out of the book a little bit. But there are other times when I really enjoyed the references, like when she kind of compared the TV show Girls from HBO to the TV show Girlfriends, which are very similar but very different at the same time. So I'm enjoying it, but there are definitely parts of it that I don't really like as much. So it's Monday, March 16th. I made quite a bit of progress today on Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. So I think I like it more than I did yesterday. There are still some essays where I'm just like kind of bored by it, especially like when it has subject matter that I don't care for that much. Like, for example, the one that was on 50 Shades of Grey and the one that was on Tyler Perry, like those I didn't really care that much for. But then there were other ones that were on subject matters like the Hunger Games, and I really did enjoy that. And then whenever she has one of her own experiences, I really enjoyed that as well. So I feel like the essays are hit or miss for me, and I understand it's not really about enjoyment, it's about message, right? But I feel like I'm not really getting that much from the essays either. Like, I expected this to be a little bit more profound than it is, and while it's good, I still feel like I haven't really learned anything. You know what I mean? So I enjoy it, but it's not one of my favorite feminist nonfictions that I've read. Also made progress on Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I've been annotating it and reading the illustrated edition, so I have some new illustrations that are some of my favorites that I want to show you guys. So first of all, This one is super cute. So this is Hermione, and she doesn't look anything like Emma Watson, and I think this is just the best depiction of Hermione. I love this picture, and this is when she makes the fire in the jar, which is what she also uses at the Quidditch game to set Snape's ropes on fire, which I think is just great, and I really enjoyed this picture. I really like the color in this picture. The picture itself is neither here nor there for me, but the color just popped out at me when I was reading this page, and this is like during the Quidditch game, obviously. So this one is another Quidditch illustration. Ron Weasley. This one has got to be one of my favorites. The next one is my favorite one that I've read so far, but this one is so touching because it's when Harry first sees the Mirror of Erised, and he's like up against the mirror by himself, and oh, this one is so emotionally driven, and I really enjoy this one. And by far my favorite, Dumbledore and Harry talking on the floor in the room with the Mirror of Erised. I just think Harry looks so cute in that picture. Like, he's such a little sweetheart, and Dumbledore sitting on the floor next to him is just precious, and I really, really love this one. So that is all I have for you guys right now, and I'll check in with you guys later. So it's Tuesday, March 17th, and I finished Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. So first of all, I love her. There were a few of the essays where I just loved it so much, and I was just like, girl, you get me. And then there were some essays where I was just incredibly bored the entire time. So I think there are like two essays in particular that I really liked, the very first one and the very last one. There were a few in there that I enjoyed, and then, like I said, there were some that I found incredibly boring, or some that I felt like I needed to have prerequisite reading or watching in order to really understand what points she was trying to get across, which I didn't have. I also wanted a little bit more from the book than I ended up getting, because I feel like a book like this that is so obviously about feminism and social issues, I felt like I should have gotten more from it than I already understand, and I felt like pretty much everything that she said, I already understood in the way that she explained it. Like, it's kind of weird reading nonfiction books, especially one like this, where like she has a lot of personal anecdotes, which I really liked, but at the same time, there was also like a lot of critiques of pop culture that I didn't really care for that much. Also, she's Team PETA, so I have to knock a star out for that one. I'm kidding. But anyways, I did enjoy it, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. So it's still Tuesday, and after I finished the audiobook a lot earlier today by Roxane Gay, I had to pick up a new audiobook, and I just wanted to pick up something short. So I picked up the Spiderwick Chronicles by Tony DiTerlizzi and Holly Black. So the first one is the field guide. They're children's books, but they're kind of marketed as middle grade, so that's why I picked it up for middle grade, even though I'm counting them towards children's books. And I kind of binge read the entire series. Just the first series, which is 5 books, and then there's the next series, which is Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles. I'll leave that till later. Like, it's so short. Like, each one was less than an hour for the audiobook. So I ended up reading the entire series. I really enjoyed the series because it's about 3 kids. There's twin boys and their older sister, and they find this journal sort of thing that's the field guide, which it just talks about fairies and different things like that. It definitely was just like a fun, cute story. I do think like each individual book was a little too short for me, even though, like, I mean, I understand they're like children's books, but like, I think I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more if I hadn't been rereading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone at the same time. I kept finding myself comparing it to the Harry Potter series, which, I mean, the Harry Potter series is something that I grew up in. It's one of my favorite series. Like, I can't compare things to the Harry Potter series because then in my mind, it's not going to be as good. So while I did enjoy reading it as I was reading it, and it did everything that I wanted it to do because I just wanted to relax today, I didn't end up rating it as high as I probably would have wanted to. I did enjoy the characters, and I enjoyed their relationships, and I enjoyed the plot, but I felt like there was still a lot lacking when it came to like details and imagery and world building and things like that I could have enjoyed more. That being said, I think each book improved upon the last book. So I gave the first book, The Field Guide, 3 stars. I gave the second book, The Seeing Stone, 3.25 stars. The third book, Lucinda's Secret, 3.5 stars. The fourth book, The Ironwood Trial, 3.75 stars, and the fourth book, Wrath of Mulgarath, 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed the plot of that fourth book. I think it was a really interesting plot, and it was just like a fun, simple action that I really enjoyed. And I'm happy that I read this series, and I do plan on reading Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles eventually. I also want to see the movie because I haven't seen the movie yet. It's a cute little series that I think is great for kids. Like, I think kids will love this series. So it is Thursday, March 19th, and I think I was doing the same thing this week as I did last week, continuing on with Words of Radiance and not updating you guys on it, but I finished it, and it's really good. I really enjoyed this. I actually liked this one more than the first one, and I think that's because I like the political side of this one a lot more than the first one. I also feel like we got to know the characters a lot better, and we got like really into more of their personalities and their relationships, and I started liking the characters more, because I feel like in the last one I got to know the characters a little bit, but I didn't necessarily like them. And in this one, I feel like I liked all of the characters, which I enjoyed. And while I do love this series, and I really, really enjoy reading it, I feel like sometimes there's just something missing when I'm reading it. I don't know what it is, because everyone loves the series. So like, I'm a little reluctant to say that because everyone loves this series. While I think it is probably Sanderson's best work so far, and I'm really, really enjoying it, I feel like sometimes it's a little repetitive. Like, there was a point in this book where I had read the book the night before, and I read a chapter or so, and in the morning I was listening to the audiobook, and I was listening to the audiobook, and I heard the exact same phrase that I'd read the night before. It was an internal monologue that one of the characters was having. It was just so repetitive from the day before that I was like, wait, hold on. Am I just listening to the same section that I read physically the night before? Like, did I not forget to skip forward or something like that? So I just let myself continue listening because I had my hands busy at the time. So I continued listening, and I was thinking, I think different things happened. Like, I'm pretty sure different things happened. If I really am reading the same section again, this is supposed to happen next. And that's not what happened next. And it was a completely different section. But the words and the thoughts and just the ideas were so similar to the chapter that I had read just the night before that I thought I was reading the same thing over again for like a second. So I feel like there's a lot of repetition in here that could have been cut down a little bit to make this a little bit more enjoyable for me. That being said, I still absolutely loved it. It's probably going to be one of my favorite series of all time. Obviously, there's more of the series to come out and more of the series for me to read, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see where this is going, because the ending of this one is great. Like, I absolutely loved where this book left off, and I'm really, really excited to continue on with this series. So it is Sunday, March 22nd, so that means this video is late, which I'm sorry for. It's been crazy these last couple of weeks at work with all of the like policies for social distancing and stuff that we've been implementing, so I've been super, super busy. Even so, I did manage to finish Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I finished it last night. There are a few really good pictures from the chapters that I did last night. So this first one, that's McGonagall, which is not one of my favorite ones, but we'll get to some of my favorite ones. This one, I think, is just gorgeous. So this is when they have to go to detention, and this is the entrance to Hogwarts. This is the exit / entrance to Hogwarts with the great doors. I absolutely love it. This one is also gorgeous. This is the unicorn in the Forbidden Forest beneath the trapdoor. The chess game, I love their facial expressions in this picture. Like, Harry's facial expression is just precious. I really like this one. For some reason, I really, really love this one. So this is the purple fire in like the potions room, which I think just the way that it was done, having the illustration behind the words, I really like the way this one was done. And I have to say, lastly, this is the creepiest picture ever, but I love it. Oh, I forgot about this one. This is probably one of my favorite pictures, because like when I was little, before the movies came out, this is how I pictured Harry, like his facial shape and everything. Obviously, after the movies came out, I started picturing Daniel Radcliffe in my head, but this is how I pictured Harry before that, and I think it was really, really well done. And then we have the castle. And lastly, the inside of the cover. This is probably one of my favorites also. It's black and white, but it is gorgeous. So yeah, I am completely done with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I really enjoyed it. There are some things about this book that didn't work for me. Like, there's something with the timing of the whole trapdoor thing, how it ends up being like after their exams, even though like there was no reason for it to wait that long. Sometimes like the timing and some of the other things like that really don't work for me in this, but overall I did really enjoy it, and of course I ended up giving it 5 stars. Additionally, I did make progress on Heroes Die by Mafi Woodring Stover. I'm right about there now, pretty good chunk of the way into it. I will say this feels way more like a science fiction novel than a fantasy novel. It has like different worlds, and one of the worlds is very much like more like a fantasy world, but then like the real world is like our world, but like in the distant future, and they can travel to this fantasy world, and they have these actors that go and play out these roles in the fantasy world that people can basically relive these actors' experiences, which is really cool, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. And while I think like the majority of the story is going to be more in that fantasy world, just the setup of it being more science fiction related makes me feel like it's a science fiction novel. Like, this feels way more like a science fiction novel than Dune did earlier this month. So even though it's part of my fantasy book series challenge, I don't feel like I'm reading a fantasy book, if that makes sense. But I am really enjoying this. It's really good. I love the writing in this book, and I really love the characters too, and I'm excited to see where this is going because it could be really interesting. And since it's the end of the week, it's time to summarize basically what I did this week. So I ended up finishing 5 books this week. Technically, it's 9 books, because the Spiderwick Chronicles is 5 books, which I'll talk about those first. But each book is like 100 pages. It was the equivalent of like a 6-hour audiobook. I enjoyed the Spiderwick Chronicles, and if I put it as a whole and think about this series as a whole, I'd probably give it like a solid 4.0. But since I had to take each of the books individually, I ended up rating it a little bit lower. The first book, I believe I rated 3 stars, and then incrementally, each book was better than the last, and so I incrementally rated up a 1/4 of a star for each book, and the ending was really good. I really enjoyed the Spiderwick Chronicles. I loved the setup of it because it is following 3 siblings, a sister, and her younger brothers, and they recently moved to this old house, and they find this field guide which tells them all about fairies and things like that, and it's a very interesting setup. I do think it read a little bit younger than I was expecting, because I expected it to be a middle grade series. It really read more like a children's series. This is the type of series you would read before you read the Harry Potter series. Like, the Harry Potter series is definitely more mature, even in the first couple of books, than the Spiderwick Chronicles. I was reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone at the same time as the Spiderwick Chronicles, so in my head I kept comparing them back and forth, and the Spiderwick Chronicles definitely reads a lot younger, but I still really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend them for younger children. I already talked about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, so the last middle grade that I finished this week was Furthermore by Tahareh Mafi. So this book really surprised me. I didn't expect to love this book as much as I did, because this one, the writing in this book is so well done. I really enjoyed it. It has a very unique voice, and it gave me kind of Alice in Wonderland type of vibes, because it was kind of nonsensical, and I liked that about it. Like, I feel like it really worked in this story, and I really enjoyed it, and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. One of the other audiobooks that I read this week was Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. So this is a series of essays that talk about feminism and race and different things overall. I do think this one I could have enjoyed more if I understood all of the secondary things that she was talking about, because she did a lot of, basically it felt like reviews of pop culture. For example, Tyler Perry's movies, which I've not watched any of those. So while I have an idea of what they look like, I couldn't really tell you if any of them were good or not, you know what I mean? But then there were also things that I did understand. Like, for example, she talked about the Hunger Games, and of course I got that one because that one is a little bit more up my alley. And of course she also had her own personal anecdotes, which whenever she did something personally and one of her anecdotes, I really loved that. But when she would talk about more of the pop culture things, it kind of got me out of the book, and I got kind of bored at times. So while I really enjoyed some of these essays, and I wish I could rate them separately, there were a lot that I just kind of wanted to skip over. So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. And lastly, I finally finished Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I love this so much. It was so well done. It had so many great political things in here. I think this is the best politics I've ever seen Brandon Sanderson write, which I absolutely loved. Like, I love politics and high fantasy, and it was done really well in this one. Like, I really liked the way it was done. I do have one tiny, teensy little criticism for it. The internal monologues, a lot of them were really repetitive. I understand why it is. Like, he wants to establish like these characters and their motivations and things like that, but I felt like there was a good portion of this novel that could have been cut out, and considering how long it is, probably should have been. But overall, I really enjoyed this. It's probably one of my favorite, it probably is my favorite Brandon Sanderson book so far. I really enjoyed it, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!